Hi everyone, in today's lesson we're going to review how to factor multivariable trinomials. A multivariable trinomial is simply something that has two variables, x squared and y squared. So the only way that you're going to get a trinomial that looks like this is if you multiply two binomials with two different variables. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the video and multiply these two binomials together and simplify your answer. Okay, your final answer should be 3x squared plus 19xy plus 20y squared. Now, the conclusions that we make is that if we multiply two binomials, we'll always get a trinomial. Now, when I say you'll always get a trinomial, I mean when I have two different binomials here. So what happened when you multiplied the first together? The x and the 3x, you got the first term of this trinomial. So that's what we're going to put in here. So it says if you multiply the first together, you'll get the first term of this trinomial. If you multiply the lasts together, so the 5y and the 4y, you'll get your 20y squared, or your last term of this trinomial. Now, how did you get this 19xy? Well, what you really did was you multiplied the inners and got 15xy, and then you multiplied the outers and got 4xy. And when you added them together, 4xy and 15xy, you got your 19xy. So this is that last conclusion. If you multiply the outers and the inners and then add them together, you'll get the middle term of the trinomial. So we're going to use this information to help us factor multivariable trinomials. So let's look at the first example. The first example we always want to look for is there a GCF? It doesn't look so we're going to just go straight to factoring. So again, to get x squared, we need to put two things in here. We're going to put x and x. Okay, now let's look at the back end of the parentheses, what I would put here and here to multiply to 9y squared. So I'm just going to write down the factors of 9y squared. So 1y and 9y, or 3y and 3y. Now notice how I'm not worrying about signs, because I know that I can multiply to a positive 9 if I also have two negatives. But I'm not going to write those just yet. I just want to play around with things. So I'm going to try and test a 3y and a 3y. And see what happens. So I'm going to multiply the outers and the inners and see what I get. So I have 3xy here and 3xy here. Now, is there any way that I can add these two to get a negative 6? Well, I know that what has to go here and here are either two positives or two negatives. So if we make them both negative, this should still work. And let's test it. X times x is my x squared. A negative 3y times a negative 3y is a positive 9y squared. And does negative 3xy plus negative 3xy add to a negative 6xy? The answer is yes. So this works out nicely. Okay, let's try example number 2. So we need a 2x and an x. Now let's see what happens. We need to multiply to 15y squared. Again, I'm not worrying about signs right now. I just want to know the factors. So I have 1y and 15y, or I have 3y and 5y. The general rule of thumb is that you should always try the numbers that are closer to each other first. So let's try the 3y and 5y. I'm not going to put them in any order. I'm just going to try it out. So 5y and 3y. Now let's do our outers and our inners. So 5xy and 6xy. Is there any way that I can add these and get a 7? I don't think so. So that's out. So let's try maybe switching these, putting the 3 here and then the 5 there. So let's do that. 3y and 5y. So outers and inners. So 3xy and 10xy. Is there any way that I'm going to get these to add to a 7? Well, we have to keep in mind that we want to multiply to this term, which is a negative. So we need one positive one and one negative one. So if we make them 3 negative, let's see what happens. We have 10 minus 3 which is a positive 7, or you could see it as negative 3 plus 10, which also adds to a positive 7. So this is your final answer. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is try examples 3 and 4. There is a typo in number 3. This should say 3b squared. But make sure that you are checking for that GCF first, and then resume the video when you're finished and see if you got your answers correct. Okay, so for number 3, you first should have put 7a and a in the first spot of the parentheses. And now you're looking at the factors of 3. So I tried 3b here and 1b here, and I want to see what happens. I checked my outers and my inners, and I got 3ab and 7ab. That looks like it worked perfectly, and if I put a positive in a positive and I add these two together, I will get a 10ab. Okay, if you had trouble with example number 4, it was because you didn't take out the GCF first. All 3 of these terms are divisible by 3. So if you did that, you should have got this. And then try to factor this trinomial. Now what the problem is that this trinomial is actually not factorable. So if you tried and you were like, hey, there's nothing I can do, you were absolutely correct. So this problem was really just a GCF only. Great job for those that caught that. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.